Sam, we're in a one deck format. It feels so bad.
Well, not necessarily, Josh, because there's actually quite a few positives we can take from this as well, and you'll find that out on this episode of Battlechads.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next episode of Battlechads. I'm Josh. I'm here with one of my fellow co-hosts, Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Josh. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm all good. So today we're going to be talking about the sort of pros and cons to having a one-deck format. We'll sort of elaborate what we mean by that after our initial pleasantries. So, Sam, how are you, mate? What have you been up to?
Yeah, really good. Mainly due to a one-deck format problem. I've been spending some time outside of Magic the Gathering recently. I've been going outside, touching some more grass. I'm currently on a bit of a rampage, I'm trying to complete each Resident Evil game start to finish before the release of the next one in February. So I've been focusing on that. How about yourself, Josh? What have you been up
to? Honestly, mate, like it's been a hot minute since I came on the podcast with you lads, and it's just a lot of work, a lot of family, a lot of other stuff knocking around. It's just a life. I feel like when you get into like your 30s, like life and priorities sort of change. So yeah, I did attempt a bit of standard recently. I haven't been playing standard. I've been playing a bit of blue black to mixed results. Like I tried the showcase qualifier the other day. I went 1-4, but in the league that I was doing on the side, I 5-0'd it. So it was like, what is this deck? I don't know. My consistency with the deck isn't quite there. So I'm not trying to. I'm trying to work out the build and the plans around certain sideboarding and such. But yeah, I've actually not been avoiding the one deck format, which we're going to talk about very soon.
yeah.
It's been exciting. Anyway, before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to UltraPRO, who is sponsored by Chad Magic, aka Team Chad Magic, is sponsored by UltraPRO. Therefore, Battlechads is sponsored by them. So shout out to UltraPRO. Really great products. Check out the new Apex sleeves, for example. I love them. They're amazing. Yeah. That's the admin done.
Yep. To be honest, I think UltraPRO have been really supportive of Chad Magic's ventures.
Yeah.
And we've been using the product, and Magic players love to moan, and I don't think one person said one bad thing to say. No. It's actually been like, oh, okay. Like, here's your help, please. My lobster's too buttery. My sleeves are too good. It's that type of mentality from us at the minute. So yeah, thanks UltraPRO. Very cool.
Yeah, I must admit they are a bit pricey, but I can say that the pound for pound price compared to other like products has been really good. Like the amount of times I goldfish, the amount of tournaments I've done with my modern deck, and the sleeves are still absolutely perfect condition. So, and I am not softening my cards. I'm like a thunderous lump when I'm smashing them together. So
yeah, I think my sleeves are still standing from when we played the Mega Modern in Birmingham.
That was a while ago.
That which was a while ago, and I'm very much like I worried if I turn up to an event with minging sleeves, all of my opponents gonna be like, oh, so like, and that vibe hasn't kicked in yet, and it's been like 3 months now. Maybe longer.
Yeah, I've had mine for quite a while. Anyway, check them out. So before how this pod's going to break down, then we're going to go into a bit of a format breakdown. We're going to talk about sort of 4 major formats that we feel we want to talk about. We're not going to talk about Pauper because I feel there's enough content creation in there for people to ingest content that way. And I don't really know about the other formats like Commander and stuff. In fact, I actively avoid Commander in this podcast. Sorry, Chad Magic, but Commander is a toilet format, in my opinion.
Okay. So I'm not gonna lie, Josh. The toilet's like the bathroom's like my favorite room in a house. So that's not necessarily an insult.
Well, I'll take that. You can take that however you interpret it. I'm not gonna.
Fair enough.
I'm not gonna toilet shame anyone.
Okay.
So before we move on to what to our sort of format breakdown, I just wanted to find. Sam's gone. He's back.
It's just booted me. I'm not sure why. I'm back.
He's back. We're going to describe what we mean by a single deck format. Now, I don't mean like a best deck format where there's like a best deck that is not like S tier unbeatable sort of, you know, you can beat it, but it's like kind of the best thing you kind of do. And look at Boros Energy in Modern, for example. It's sort of like the best thing you do, but it's not really like unbeatable or oppressive in any sort of way. We're talking about this is a clear best deck, 25+% of the meta. Like this is the, if you want to win an event, this is the clearly most obvious choice to go for because it is the best thing you can be doing in that format right now. That is what I would interpret as a single deck format. Would you add to any of that, Sam?
Yeah, I think the best way I could put it is we've just used Modern's a fantastic example of what a one deck format isn't.
Yeah.
Boros Energy, it's a known quantity. It's probably the best deck in the room, but you are not wrong for picking Goryo's Vengeance or Belcher, for example. When we say one deck format, what we mean is, hey, this deck's the best deck, and you are actually objectively wrong for playing something else here.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you want to win your Spotlight Liverpool, perhaps, or as Josh mentioned, we saw the showcase events last weekend just gone. Yeah. If you were not playing this deck, there could be a very strong argument that you are wrong, and that's what we mean, really.
Yeah. We have seen some. You look at those, for example, the qualifier. It was won by Blue Black mid range, but if you looked at the rest, if you looked at the rest top 16, it was all ViVi decks and stuff. And yes, we are alluding to ViVi Cauldron sort of decks, ViVi Prowess decks, that sort of build, mainly ViVi and Agatha Soul Cauldron. We are alluding to that, and it is clearly the best thing to be doing in standard right now. But we've been talking about Modern, so we'll move on to our sort of breakdown of formats and sort of health check on them as you coined it before, Sam. And we should stick it Modern. So, how's Modern looking?
I have to say, Modern continues to have gone from the unruly child in the house to the best behaved child in the house. One thing, the only example I can use to discuss how healthy Modern is, in my opinion, is I keep saying to myself, look, when Belcher's not playable anymore, I'll pick something else to play. It's playable, I'll play it, whatever. Yeah. And then every time I come to an event, I'm like, oh, still performing well. Yeah. And that's the same for every deck in the format. I think, as we said then, well, maybe there's one true deck to play in standard, but Josh could tell me tomorrow that he's going to play Samwise combo, and I was like, that sounds fun. Yeah. Have fun with that.
You can win with it.
You can win with it. And that's the same for... we've seen a bit of a new contender with Grixis Reanimator, would you call it?
Grixis Reanimator,
that won the Modern Showcase. It's been kind of a deck for a while, and now it's flexing its muscles. And
it's always been there. It's always been there. Like it's been there for a while. Like I haven't really got the deck up, but let's see if I can get it up now. I'll see what might be the oldest cards from that sort of deck are. But you know, it's one of those things in Modern. Like this has existed in Modern in a while. It's not been affected. It's not sort of appeared because Edge of Eternities has come out. There's no been like new card to send the deck into overdrive. It's literally been there, and someone decided one day, oh, I know, I'm just gonna play this deck because sort of the same philosophy I had with Goryo's Vengeance because the graveyard hate isn't the best. Let me think. So I'm just looking at the deck now to see if any new sort of cards.
I think that it's no, it's that Persist package, that Persist Archon of Cruelty package, which is so strong. And we saw a dedicated Esper Reanimator deck when Modern Horizons 2 came out, which flexed its muscles, did somewhat well, and then sort of disappeared into the ether. But one thing I really like that this deck has taken advantage of is since those unbans, we found the good Mox Opal deck. Yeah. We found a good Green Sun Zenith deck. Titan flirts with that card quite a bit, and it's pretty good in the big pile. But I really like that somebody sat down and, from my opinion, has decided to go, we don't have a good Faithless Looting deck yet. Let's see if we can find that. And they've just landed on nothing too complicated. No. Just a beautiful... I know if you're looking at it now, Josh, the lists are incredibly clean. Yep. Really clean list.
There's no sort of like, dredge package or any sort of broken stuff that's happening there. It's literally, I'm going to put this fatty in the bin. I'm going to cast a 2-mana spell in a format full of spell snares, and if it resolves, I'm going to probably win the game. But even then, like, Archon of Cruelty isn't necessary. Like, it's a game-winning threat, but it's not like the format can't answer it, and it's not like it's not oppressive or anything. It's just a new contender that people have to consider when building the decks, building the sideboard. Modern is actually looking so sweet. Like, I might play some Modern
Yeah.
tonight after this podcast.
I mean, I think that I think the healthiest way to look at Archon of Cruelty is Indomitable Creativity used to be a deck
Yep.
where the vibe of that deck was modern calm beat an Archon that's resolved. As in either I've gained too much value
Yep.
or I've sacrificed one of their major permanents and I've gained too much and
Or the
yada
removal, there
yada.
wasn't the removal
Yeah.
lineup. Like,
And now the modern itself police to the fact that, as Josh has just hit upon, actually you can beat an Archon now.
yeah.
Boris Energy can Fraben Charm it off the battlefield or exile from the graveyard or go over the top with a card like Flage. There are dedicated Demir Frog type decks which can really fight in the stack. It's just every deck has its own way to beat that. And I think that's like the self-policing of the format is because these cards are so strong, but the actual pool itself is just as strong. There's a really nice back and forth dynamic here. I love it.
I agree, and it's it's an all-in, like, its secondary game plan is Frog and Emperor Bones Beatdown, and they can be fatal pushed. If they do reanimate, people packing a Ghost Vacuum will shut that deck down. People packing Unlicensed Hearse or something will shut that deck down because it's so all in on the graveyard. And then obviously that deck has tools to beat certain graveyard hate as well. So, it's nice. From Edge of Eternities as well. Moving on from like the sort of new deck in the house, we've got innovation in terms of like the Blink decks. Playing Quantum Riddler and stuff like that from Edge of Eternities. Like it's sort of like it's broadening Modern's flavor, but not altering its. I would say power.
Roots.
Like it's still modern. It's still playing these new cards, but you could still play your deck from 4 weeks ago and probably do pretty well still.
Yep. One card I have to shout out from Edge of Eternities that's been incredibly impressive is Pinnacle Emissary, the new 1-mana Psy Masterphopterist type effect. The Mox Opal decks have been lacking, have been pretty unimpressive. And honestly, just seeing this like 3-mana card that makes a bunch of 1/1s and have that be good in Modern is a testament to the format health, I think. It's very cool. And I love the point you just made as well is, yep, I said before, I'll play Belcher for as long as it's good. I've played Belcher in both into the new Affinity pile and into the new Grixis Reanimator pile. And it leads to fun games, like games where my decisions matter and my actual thinking and sequencing matters, rather than just like a kaiju battle in the middle of Tokyo, just knocking buildings over with big fists. This is actually like it's a format that rewards its players, and just this, as you said, Edge of Eternity's sprinkling in a little bit of seasoning onto a already healthy meta has been really fun to see.
I mean, I'm just looking now on MTG Top 8, the different builds. Like every Top 8 is varied. You've got every winner, like every challenge winner has been different over the time. There's a Belcher winner here, Glorious Vengeance, Neobrand, Titan. Grixis Reanimator. There's all these different contenders to be the best deck, and it's really showing. Like, I think Modern is a real good format for expression at the moment. And I really like it. I think it's in such a good spot.
Yeah, if you want to do something, there's going to be a deck that supports what you want to do, and there's also going to be a deck that supports what you want to do in a good way. And I think honestly, like, listen to this top 8: Neobrand, Affinity, Esper Blink, Zoo, Boris Energy, Amulet Titan, Grixis Reanimator, Yawgmoth. What do you want?
you've got every flavor. You've got combo. You've got some mid range. You've got some grindy games. You've got some artifacts, fast strategies. You've got all kinds in there. Like it's great.
Yeah, and I think that the one deck I would consider to be potentially unfun, slightly unhealthy, is your Eldrazi Temple decks, because it's kind of a bit anemic, maybe a bit linear. Those decks have been on the back foot just because there's a lot of consigned to memory. So decks are still playable, and you can still do well with them if you want, but there was a point in Modern history on Modo where like every second game would be against Eldrazi, and it was that way for months and months and months. So again, the pendulum has swung in the favor of Eldrazi, and as it's swung back, people are now packing their good graveyard hate cards, or graveyard hate, Eldrazi hate cards, like consigned to memory, and the pendulum is now actually balanced out again. It's fun to see.
Yeah, cool. I was going to do this thing where every time we talk about format, we'd say what would we play in the format right now. And honestly,
Hmm.
it sounds like you'd be on Belcher, and
Yep.
I would happily take Glorious Vengeance as this format again. You know, I would be pretty worried that the increase in graveyard decks means that my deck itself is a sort of less powerful version of the Grixis Reanimator, or less consistent version, because in the Grixis
Yep.
Reanimator you've got, you know, multiple targets for it's sort of got more bigger threats and can just
Hmm.
present threat after threat after threat. But I would say that you know, changing your deck building a little bit round, you know, change a few slots in your sideboard, maybe a few token graveyard hate pieces, and I think, yeah, your pet deck is fine.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you mentioned it before. If you're really worried, just play some Ghost Vacuums in your board, and you'll be fine. I know the deck doesn't fold to Graveyard Hate, but its Plan B combo is certainly less impactful than its Plan A.
Mm-hmm.
And Graveyard Hates can never be the best format deck in a format for a prolonged period of time in Modern. There's just
No.
too many different varieties of hate.
Yeah, I mean, this deck can't be the deck can't be a Rest in Peace, for example, or Leyline of the Void. Like, it's just
Yep.
what they're going to do. You'd have to warp the deck build a little bit and then ride too hard on Frog. Yeah, it's the format's great. Format's great.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it
mean,
was still modern season. Honestly, I think modern being the flagship competitive format is a great place to be.
yep. And the fact that me and you can just pick the same decks we've been playing forever is just a testament to that health too.
And you know what as well? Like, if you look at the actual price of modern, and I'm seeing this in dollars right now on MTG Goldfish, the price of modern, if you take away the Opal decks, is like 3 digits. Usually, I'm seeing. I know when Yorion was big in the form, you had like money piles and stuff. You had like $2,000 decks.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a single deck I'm seeing on here that doesn't play Mox Opal that is over $1,000. Is all under, just broad look, under $600.
Yeah.
For a deck, you know, that's like your format staples that you should have in your trade folder or in your binders that you have to keep telling people to collect. But yeah, great. So something for everyone.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I think that the idea of something for everyone can sometimes get lost because, well, sure, this is the best thing, we can do what you want, but it's something for everyone, and you have a really good chance of doing well if you play well as well.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. So anything on Finish on Modern, or are you happy to move on to sort of
I am happy to move on.
the format you want to talk about, which is Pioneer?
Yeah. So I think that Pioneer has been dogged on a lot by myself and yourself,
Yep.
Josh. I know Dan's a good fan of Pioneer, but has no one to play with like everyone else. But I think that modern, I said before, oh no, my steak is too juicy and my lobster's too buttery. That's the type of the vibe we have with modern. Modern's fine. Don't fix it if it isn't broken.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're going to discuss, standard is in a bit of a strange situation. So that kind of leaves people with these more recent cards wondering, well, what do I get to do with them? And the answer is Pioneer. And I think that if we were to take away all of the positives from modern, is there something you can do if you'd like to do it on a less powerful scale? And also the other great point that you made is that it's actually a very affordable format.
Mm-hmm.
You take those over to Pioneer. Pioneer's affordable, it's healthy, and you get to do what you want to do. Probably less to the extent of modern. You don't get to cheat 7-mana 5/5s into play, but there is some good stuff going on there. And my thoughts of Pioneer really started with a tweet from Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and he was saying that how healthy Pioneer looks, how Pioneer isn't affected by these financial decisions. And I think that, I don't know. I think that if you want a casual format, as in, by casual here, we mean like a format you can't play to get to the Pro Tour that hasn't been a Pioneer season in a while, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just wanted to play on Modo, I think Arena has Pioneer now, not Explorer. They had Pioneer Masters, and now there's Pioneer. And then, on Modo, like, the format looks to be quite healthy. But
Mm-hmm.
the question I have is, are we in a grass is greener mentality? Is Pioneer actually very healthy, very fun? Or is it because you can't get to the Pro Tour with it, so nobody's really bothering to play it as much? No, sorry, not even the Pro. You can't even get to an RC with Pioneer.
Yeah.
So is Pioneer just been left alone in the corner, and its cult followers or cult-like followers are now really committed to just playing what they like, or is it actually a good format that just needs a little bit of TLC? What do you think, Josh?
So I'm just looking at the Pioneer format now because I'm totally out of pace with Pioneer. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
like it's something I've not even looked at. I've not even got a Pioneer deck built anymore. Like I was really enjoying Greasefang. I was expecting to come onto MTG Goldfish and see any like new decks or the format that I don't recognize, and I'm still seeing Hidden Strings. I'm still seeing Mono Red Aggro. I'm still seeing
Yep.
Greasefang decks. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
seeing Rakdos midrange being a thing.
Mm-hmm.
My worry is that the red decks are probably a bit too strong in that format. Probably the best thing you could be doing.
Yeah.
But I'm still seeing creativity decks. I know we had Marco on a while back. I'm not sure if it was yourselves. It might have been with Luis when he was still on the podcast, talking to Marco about his experience with creativity,
Mm-hmm.
transmogrify. Sorry, that's sort of the same thing.
Yeah, that was a yeah.
So I'm looking at this sort of stuff, but I'm also seeing like blue black decks. That sort of looks like the standard bounce decks. I'm also seeing control decks. I'm seeing quite a variety of decks here. Convoke as well.
Yep.
Angels. That's a sort of like a pioneer specific deck.
That deck's cool. I really like that deck.
It's a format that I think I've got a distaste in my mouth from when I was playing it, and I didn't really enjoy it. But I think you might be right. There's the lack of incentive to play the format means that the pros aren't grinding the format. The sort of people who want to really sweat and win over the format are not sort of focusing the meta, because usually you'd have like a big tournament and that focus the meta, and then people would play the best deck from that. And I think I'm not sure if that's suffering from that, but I fear that. Well, I think that if that was the case, I feel it would be very heavy towards the red aggro decks.
Yeah, it's a shame because I've actually never gotten a chance to play Pioneer since the format's inception, and I get to play with cards like Deathrite Shaman, which you get to play with cool cards in Pioneer. I think it's safe to say, but it's almost the fact that it's not important has led it to be better, because now only the people who care about the format want to play their cards. You actually know what this reminds me of?
Cool.
This reminds me of what Commander used to be like before Wizards really made a push on Commander. Commander used to be a bit of a cult format, a bit of a casual format, but you could turn up with your pet cards and do well with them, and you'd all have a laugh and go home at the end of the day. And now that Commander's been so pushed for, the actual landscape of Commander looks very, very differently than it used to. And I think that as much as I'd love Pioneer to be a good format, more healthy formats, more options to play can never be a bad thing for Magic players.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe I'm just. I think I might be in a grass is greener mentality for Pioneer. It looks so fun over there, doesn't it? Everybody's having fun and a good time. And then we all move over there, and all of a sudden it's actually, Hidden Strings is still a deck. That type of stuff.
It does. It does
yeah.
look like you got your combo decks and stuff. And Is It Phoenix was a big contender for looking at a big powerhouse when we were playing. Is It Phoenix was like probably the best thing you could be doing, and if you're doing anything else, you're probably doing it wrong. I know Hidden Strings sort of could get like up over Phoenix a bit. By just comboing off or getting on where Treasure Cruise is still legal in the format. I think. I don't know. I think
Treasure Cruise is still legal in the format. Hang on, sorry, I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah, Treasure Cruise.
Oh my god, you get to play 4 Treasure Cruise?
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh.
I think this is sort of like, I think it could be a grass is greener, and I think the format might be a starved format for player base rather than a healthy format for play. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it ever comes back into the RCQ circuit. I know we've got 2 seasons of standard now, so it's going to be a while. I do think that Pioneer only exists because it was pushed so hard in the RC circuit. I think if Pioneer wasn't pushed as hard as it was in Wizards, I think the format would have died out. So it's good to see that people are still playing it. It's good to see that the metagames are varied, but it could just be at this point a bit of a meme. In the same ilk as Dual Commander, People enjoy that format. I think it's a bit of a meme format.
That's a great comparison, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
people are
agree.
playing it for fun rather than for any serious sort of play. I mean, I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing any sort of names where like top of the. I'm not seeing all that like Mogged or anyone like that. Smashing challenges and Pioneer. It seems to be all the other formats that seem to be taking the focus, standard and modern.
Yeah, and it's a shame because I think Pioneer is the only place I can realistically play one of my favorite decks of all time, which is Jund Sacrifice.
Yeah.
I adore that deck. When over COVID during my arena seasons where I was trying to qualify for the arena events, I was on Jund Sacrifice and Standard. That deck just spoke to me.
Yeah.
And it's just sadly not good enough for Modern. So I can see it there on the last page of the metagame, my beloved Mayhem Devil. But maybe not this year, Josh. Maybe next year. What do you play?
What in Pioneer?
Pioneer, yeah.
I'd just pick up Abzan Greasefang, see how that is. Like I've
yeah.
As a litmus test, like it's the sort of deck that I sort of knew. I could imagine it's built quite differently now because there's been a few sets since I last played. Maybe it's good. I'm just looking briefly now and I see like an Orzhov
Monument to Endurance.
Deck. You said before about you can't cheat in a 6/6, but you can definitely cheat in 13 power worth of nastiness.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, you can't cheat in a 6/6, but you can do much better than that. I like that. Man, this deck's cool.
Yeah, it seems
maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if it'll be a format I'd probably engage with too much. Like I'm not excited by it personally. I think it might be one of those sort of seasons I'll just skip because I just didn't have a good experience with it with the Pioneer RC that played. I don't know though. I will try it though, 100%. Just not right now. I haven't got enough time to do all these different formats. Happy with Pioneer? So what would you play? Your Jund Sacrifice? I would play my Greasefang.
Yeah, I think if you were to give me a chance to play old favorites, it seems to be what everyone else is doing. So I'd give that a go as well. Why not?
Cool. Another meme format, I may as well be at this point. Legacy. Now, Legacy is like if I gave up the Chad Magic stuff and I was right, I am just going to play just one format forever. It would probably be Legacy. It'd be probably the one format I've been most winningest with. And it's a format that I used to love grinding with, love playing it. Like, absolutely love owning my dual lands. I love looking at my fancy version of cards. Like, I love my Legacy stuff. And I still keep up to date with it. Most of the podcasts that I consume are Legacy podcasts, believe it or not. Albeit I don't really play the format currently because of sorry, I'm about to cough 1 second. Because of like Modern and Standard taking up so much time. But yeah, I still keep in tabs with Legacy. So it is a online heavy Dimir reanimator still after all the bans it's had. Oops All Spells is still being a menace in terms of creating these turn zero sort of games or turn one sort of games. However, the format seems to be adapting. It seems to be adapting in how you build. The more stack interaction you have, the more main board graveyard interaction you have. The mere tempo is sort of like policing the format in a way, but then you've also got like, by looking at the sort of trifecta of combo, as in like straight up combo, as in like your tempo deck, so your oops decks, your doomsday decks, all that sort of stuff, getting policed by tempo, with tempos getting policed by your Mystic Forge decks, your red stompy decks, and then those sort of decks are getting policed by the reanimator decks, or all that sort of the good stuff. So I feel like there's a bit of a balance in numbers. I feel like the numbers in Legacy probably look really good, but the online play seems to be very heavily in favor of Dimir Reanimator being the best sort of deck because it's the combo shell versus and the tempo shell at once. And if you have like a tempo combo shell, it tends to be a really powerful combination. But where the beauty of Legacy lies is when you look at paper results and what decks people are playing in paper, and there's some wild, like, amazing decks people are playing. I think it's down to the fact that you're playing your pet deck, or you're playing cards you own, for example, or you're just there for fun because, again, you can't qualify for the Pro Tour with Legacy. I don't believe anyway.
No,
it is essentially a fan format at this point, and competitive Legacy might be a bit rough for your Dimir Reanimator, but I feel like the rest, like Paper Legacy, looks pretty sweet for what people are bringing.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the metagame now, and honestly, Legacy looks completely different than the last time I played it, or even bothered to look. And
Mm-hmm.
sure, you have, you're right, your Dimir Reanimators almost 20%, your Oops All Spells is almost 5. But if
Yeah.
you just kind of ignore those two, it seems to be a cool format. A lot of combo, but again, the Mayor Tembo's performing pretty well. There's a Stompy deck, which can
Mm-hmm.
never be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Stompy's always good. And then, have you seen this? One thing I've seen recently popping up is sort of this like Boris Energy deck in
Yes.
Legacy. Have you seen
Yeah. Yeah.
that? That
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
really cool. That looks really cool.
Yeah. So it's sort of like like up to recently, there's not been really like turns like squares turned sideways to kill your opponent. It's either presenting a game-winning threat where like there's no point playing anymore, like in Atraxa, for example, backed up with Force of Will, or I've just straight up comboed you dead, or I'm grinding you out to the point where I'm getting value. I'm killing you with what's the Eldrazi called? I'm killing you
Fleshraker?
with Frustraker or something like along those
Hmm.
lines. But these Boros decks and Stompy decks, they're literally putting cardboard sideways to kill you dead, and that's pretty cool to see in Legacy. We
This deck is so cool.
the last straight up combo deck we've seen, aggro deck we've seen was the Eldrazi aggro deck with when Microspawn was still in the format. But since Microspawn's been banned, you've not
Yeah.
really seen it. Yeah,
No, that's a good point, actually. That's a good
I
point.
think Legacy probably gets a bit of can have some feel bad moments, especially when you get turn one and you're like, oh, there's nothing I could have done about it due to the Oops All Spells deck, or I've been playing against Reanimator. I'm keeping my graveyard interaction up for they reanimate something and then they slam a Murktide. Like I think that can feel really bad, but I do think that correct deck building and deck choice is really important in this format, and I think it's quite rewarding. And the good games of Legacy, like the best games of
Really
Magic,
good.
the best games of Magic I've ever played have always been in Legacy. Like if
Yeah.
I can think of like top 10 game moments in my life, probably 8 of them will be Legacy, for example. Like the gameplay is just so good, so fun, so rewarding, and it's those like big decisions on big turns that are like really key to that format. Like there's no like your decisions have really like let me think, snowballing effects for like
Yes.
later on, where like for modern, like oh yeah, I've made this poor decision, or I've messed up a little bit, but I can still come back from this. Where in Legacy, it's like I am just knocking on death's door. I'm just preventing the inevitable kind of thing because I made that slight decision wrong, or I fetched wrong, or I took the wrong thing in the graveyard, or I didn't just snatch the graveyard with Nihil Spellbomb at this time, or stuff like that. Like I think
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually why I stopped playing the format. I played in a GP main event, GP Birmingham,
yeah,
a long time ago now. And I remember just having so much fun, but
mm-hmm.
losing all of my. I went like 1-3, but it's because I just wasn't well versed. A good Legacy player would have gone 4-0 in my seat. I had
Yeah,
good matchups and I had good draws. And I just remember being there like, wow, this format is lovely.
yeah,
It's a shame I can't play it because nobody else plays it. And I think that when it's interesting, we just spoken about Pioneer. Pioneer gets a bad rep because nobody plays it.
yeah.
I think Legacy gets a bad rep because the people who play Legacy love Legacy
Mm-hmm.
so much, like yourself. They've played Legacy
It's a
for
big
years,
investment
and
into it, especially if you own the
yeah,
cards. Yeah,
yeah. And just if you speak to a Legacy player, the thing you get the thing you hear is a bit of a bad beat story about the format, and I think that it's actually completely opposite of Pioneer. Pioneer's bad beat because there's nobody to talk to about it. Legacy is the actual people who love and have committed loads of time into their decks are the ones having a tough time at the moment.
yeah. Cool. If you were to pick a Legacy deck to play right now, what would it be?
I think that I think that recently my favorite card that I've never really gotten to do something ridiculously silly with is Glaring Fleshraker. I love
Yeah,
that card. It's very cool. So I'd probably end up on the Mystic Forge
yeah.
Glaring Fleshraker pile.
A very
And
winning deck.
yeah, and I think I find those lines really fun because it's all about sequencing, and sequencing with powerful cards is some of the best fun you can do. If I was to make a guess for you, Josh, I know that. I would it be some form of Demir deck, maybe,
Yeah,
perhaps? Yeah.
It'd just be Dimir Reanimator. I've been playing that deck for.
Yep.
I took that deck to GP Vegas. I took that deck to my last ELM. Like I've been playing that deck a lot. Like I just love that deck. You know, I've been playing the deck for the past 2 or 3 bans, or however many bans it was. Like I did play Dimir Tempo, and I found that the Tempo plan was good and powerful and all that, but it just lacked that I win button that I think you need in Legacy. Like that, okay, I can spike a game by going end step into and reanimate with force backup. Like, is that sort of thing? Like, I think is really important to have in Legacy. Like that nail in the coffin to just really spike a game, whether it be like the Stompy decks with turn 1 Chalice, or turn 1 Blood Moon, for example, or the sort of Mystic Four combo decks with the 1 ring, get a turn 2 1 ring out kind of thing, sort of like seals the game, that sort of thing. And I felt that Dimir Tempo, even though it does to police the format, I felt like the resource battle was just a bit too much, I think. And when I can play a Dimir Tempo shell with a combo finish, is just something I'd do. If I really wanted to play something, like if I got on my heart of hearts is like Infect again, but I don't think bringing Infect into this format for Labo Masters is the best thing.
Probably not, mate. No, and I think that as I trickle to the bottom of the meta game, is Infect on here at all? Tell you what, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to break your heart. But anything else you want to say about Legacy?
Other than Infect absolutely poops all over Mystic Forge combo. Like they can't deal with it. They can't deal with a turn 1 Glistener Elf, and then turn 2 you're dead.
Yeah, 1 mana 1 getting all the way there is actually very funny.
Yeah.
No, format looks fun. I think that if you're playing Legacy through the bad and through the good. And I hope that Legacy players get a really good format sometime soon.
Cool. So we'll talk about Standard now, and Standard sort of like links in with the main pod's topic, which is, the pros and cons of a single deck format. And Standard right now, big surprise, single deck format. ViVi Cauldron decks are everywhere. They are like, some of the tournaments is over 50% of the metas. It's been winning pretty much most tournaments. It's been top 8 in nearly every time. We've had challenges where every ViVi deck, every top 8 has been a ViVi deck, for example. It's absolutely everywhere. You cannot play a league or anything in Standard right now without coming across this deck. This deck is everywhere.
Yeah.
So that is basically our assessment of the format. Would you agree?
Yeah, sadly, me and Dan were very excited on our episode discussing Edge of Eternity's cards, and ViVi's really keeping that format pretty very little impact or next to no impact at all. ViVi has really it's strange because to the surprise of no one, really flexed its muscles, but I don't think people anticipated it quite like this.
I think so. There's 2 ways to approach the deck, right? You've got the ViVi sort of prowess builds, which is more in on like making your otters and killing them with VVs and stuff like that. There's that sort of build, your Makos, all that good stuff. And then there's like the sort of like deck which dirtles around and then tries to combo you off by putting a VV in the graveyard and then Agatha Soul Cauldron onto something. And the more VVs you have exiled with Soul Cauldron, the ability of VV stacks, so you can like have multiple copies of the ability on a creature, for example. You can get loads and loads of mana, do loads of stuff. You've got decks like is it Weatherlight Stories or Winter Night Stories, where you can refill your hand. You've got combat tricks with Fear of Missing Out to really kill them. Then you've got the making big creatures with your Prof's Edict Memory, that sort of stuff. There's lots of angles of attack with this deck, and it's really hard to essentially. You can't just hate the deck out. Like you can't just bring graveyard hate in and then just win. You can't then just bring lots of removal, because your removal then fuels, gives you targets for your Soul Cauldron. Like it's a powerful, probably oppressive sort of deck that probably definitely needs some sort of intervention in terms of bannings.
Yeah.
But we're here.
We haven't had that quite yet, and to be honest, I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon.
No. So this is the format we're in, and if you want to compete in this format, you've sort of got to embrace it. And we've got a list of pros and cons to either try and entice you to play it, or I don't know. Maybe you decide not to play the format after we talked about the cons, but I think we'll have that sort of discussion later. But you mentioned something when we were discussing notes of this pod. You mentioned something about the rotation. So we've just had
Yeah.
rotation and we've had bans. Now,
Mm-hmm.
do you just want to make a comment about the 2-year/3-year rotation that
Yeah,
you made?
yeah, of course. So, we've just seen two rotations, one of which was 7 cards, a
Mm-hmm.
historical amount getting banned, and then the other one was actual factual rotation where sets left. And Wilds of Eldraine in particular is a very interesting set because it has cards like Agatha Soul Cauldron, incredibly unique abilities that not only have we not seen before, we've never really seen any imitation of before. This Agatha Soul Cauldron is incredibly strange card.
Hmm.
It's very, very unique. And when we discuss rotation, Standard used to be on a set had 2 years to shine,
Yep.
and then it rotated out.
Mm-hmm.
With the release of Wilds of Eldraine in particular, it was with the release or with the promo of that set, somewhere about there, they announced Standard was actually going to become a 3-year rotation
Mm-hmm.
format. So essentially, if we had the initial rotation plans, Wilds of Eldraine would have rotated with the rest of the formats that we saw leave.
Yep.
So Wizards design cards way in advance. Even if we're looking at current spoiler season, we can see how many cards are actually in the chamber for Wizards. But taking a look at rotation in particular and design in particular, in the original rotation of Standard, Agatha Soul Cauldron was never meant to exist with ViVi to this point.
No.
If we take a look at history as it stands, Paulo Vita Domodorosa did pretty well with this deck at the Pro Tour, and then Corey Seal Cutter got banned, and then we had a couple of weeks until Edge of Eternities, and then rotation happened. So we are currently in a standard format that is almost a paradox in comparison to the design. So this should never have existed, honestly.
It would have existed for like a couple of weeks during
Yeah.
when Final Fantasy came out, up until Edge of Eternity, because the day Edge of Eternities came out, that's when Agatha Soul Cauldron should have rotated out.
Yeah.
But it didn't. So we have, like you're right, we have this deck that should not have existed in how it is now. Some of the removal, like Torch the Tower wouldn't have been in Torch the Tower's Wilds of Eldraine,
Torch
right?
Tower's Wilds of
Torch the
Eldraine
Tower,
as well.
one of the best removal spells currently in the red colors. That wouldn't have been in because the deck is very heavy red removal, very interactive as well. The premier removal spell wouldn't have been in there. We just lost Cut Down, which was like the premier sort of low to the ground black removal. This sort of fills that spot plus. It wouldn't have been as you rightly said, as it is built now. It probably would have been something quite different.
More in line to the prowess builds, I think.
Yeah.
That definitely would have still been a deck, but as you just pointed out, missing your key removal piece. So actually more in parallel with the black decks that we see. And then it's a shame because Final Fantasy is actually quite a good set. Edge of Eternities is quite a good set. And I think that the sins are being committed in a way that was never intended. So it's not even like I can say, wow, Wizards, that's a very silly, wow, how did you miss this? It's not that they missed it, it's that it doesn't matter. It's a shame.
Yeah. We talked before about Boros Energy being sort of a fine best deck. It's doing fair things. It's doing, it wants to kill you with combat. It's like not oppressive. How does ViVi fit against that feel? I mean, we sort of alluded, it being a single deck format, meaning that the powers are quite high. But is this a fine deck to exist?
Answer's probably no. Boros Energy is quite a fair comparison because I actually think the decks run quite parallel. They have a really aggressive out the gate start to begin with. Then they have certain particular card advantage spells which can claw them back cards and then discard cards to fuel their graveyard strategies. They then have 3 mana, really impactful legendary creatures to sort of finish the game with. So the decks actually play quite similar, but the issue is if I think Boros Energy is a problem in Modern, you know what? I'm just going to sleeve up Neo Brand. The format is so wide and so deep that we see good answers exist for Boros in that format. it's completely the different story for standard. Standard, as wide and deep as it is still not strong enough to compete a deck that can perform like Boros Energy. And if you take a look at this deck as well, a lot of these cards are actually rares and I think and mythics. And why is that important? All decks play rares and mythics. Well, standard is mostly commons, uncommons, because they act as that format's building blocks, as that format's foundations. That's a pun. I think they call the course their foundations. That's a pun. It was intentional. But that's the format's foundations. But here, okay, if I want to play something else, I got to play my good commons. I got to play my good uncommons. The main mid range is a great example of this. That deck plays a lot of, you play Bat, Spyglass Siren, removal spells.
A lot of commons and commons that deck.
But this deck has literally stripped the format of really strong, synergistic, more importantly, rares and mythics, and it's just push them together to create this like amalgam of a modern deck, or a shadow of a modern deck. And no, I think the answer is no, it's not a good thing to exist.
Yeah, the synergy is really high. Like even the sort of, the rares, like, fear of missing out, sometimes, discarding the card's not what you want to do. It's sort of seen as like more of a cycle card rather than discard card, but you actively want to discard stuff with this deck. It has the synergies. You want to be putting VVs in the bin. You want to be digging for your soul cauldrons. There's a lot of synergy in this deck, and it often feels that when I played against this deck for the first time, I was like, how do you beat this deck? Like, if you just want to pick up standard right now, it's very gatekeepy, because if you don't have no experience on how to beat this deck and you want to bring your whatever deck to the format, the one you built with your standard cards or whatever, you're gonna have a real tough time, because it is literally like bringing a knife to a gunfight sometimes. Especially with some of the draws that they have.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to quickly go over some of the synergies, if you don't mind, in comparison to a deck like the mid range. So you've got a combo finish with Draconotics Engineer and Agatha Soul Cauldron. Mako is grown by Fear of Missing Out, Steam Core Solar, Tersa Light Shatter, Winter Night Stories. Agatha Soul Cauldron is really obviously insane with ViVi, but FOMO and Prof's Eidetic Memory is an obscene combo as well, because every combat you get from that Fear of Missing Out, you are actually then getting another Prof's trigger, and it just goes on and on and on and on, and it's just gross, to be honest. There's so many micro synergies here that I just think that the deck, as if you compare that again to the mid range, I'm going to bounce my creature with an ETB that can't be blocked because I get to play it again.
Yeah.
And there's the extent of the combo there. It's playing the format not on a different axis. It's playing the format on every axis that's available, when other decks just aren't doing that and can't do that.
Yeah, and you can pivot your game strategy, and you can bring in sort of Ral from the sideboard, Ral cracking and wit to create, to create a more grindy game. It's hard to deal with Planeswalker. You've still got, I know the prowess build has, it's playing the Otter card. What's it called?
The Otter card is Storm Chaser's talent.
Storm Chaser's talent. You can play into that sort of thing. There's different flavors to play it, and then within those flavors, you've got different game plan synergies, and you can arch your game plan depending on what your opponent's doing. It's really hard to keep on top of, especially if you're playing like a tempo deck, control deck, or even an aggro deck. It's like the stacks for removal in the deck. They can dig for exactly the thing that they need. If you're bringing in Graveyard Hate, they play main board of Braids. Usually Graveyard Hate nowadays, other than the Rest in Pieces artifacts.
Typically Soul Cauldron, right, as well.
And Soul Cauldron, yeah, it's got game in the I could imagine the Mirror 2 quite a grind fest, to be fair.
It is.
Or who draws best, to be fair, which sounds like typical sort of standard. Yeah, it's not a good deck to be the best, but this is what we're in. We're in this single deck format, and there are some benefits to this, and there's some negatives to this, and I think we should talk about the benefits first. Before we finish, we'll sort of finish on the negatives, shall we?
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? Well, let's start on the negatives. Let's do it the other way around. Let's change it up last minute. Let's start on the negatives. So
okay,
negatives, because we're sort of talking negatively about the deck anyway. Price of the cards. we talked a few times in this
Yeah.
podcast about card price. Now,
Hmm.
if you look at this deck, I'm just looking at an example on MTG Goldfish. For a standard deck, you're looking at $800 to play this deck. And that's because ViVi is, I apologize saying be it in dollars, but that's what's in front
That's
of
what
me.
we've got in front of us.
I'm not gonna convert it. Like, you know, you're looking at like $200 for a set of VVs, then you're looking $250 for a set of Agatha Soul Cauldrons, and then you've got, you know, $30 for your profts. I remember when they were like 10p each. $30, $40 for your fear of missing outs, etc. And then obviously you got the land base, shocks, all that good stuff. Verge that it's an expensive deck.
No shocks, importantly.
No shocks, but you got your verges.
But starting town as well. Sorry, starting town's being $30 each.
Yeah,
crazy.
Starting town is gone spiked really hard. It's sort of like the mana. It's sort of the sort of glue that puts the mana together. You know, most decks are only playing about one or two of them, but it's sort of that glue that, you know, oh, I've drew too many islands. I wish one of these was another color, and that sort of like fixes the mana a little bit. So it's an expensive deck first and foremost. The profitability of this is, though, particularly here, is that if it does get banned out of standard, I don't think these cards will be affected drop too hard, because they're all the Agatha Soul Cauldron's modern. I'm not sure about Legacy, but you know, it's a modern All-Star. ViVi is
Commander All-Star as well.
ViVi is an all format, as a multiple format All-Star. The card is absolutely nuts. You know, there's deck it's getting played in modern, in the Opal sort of decks. It's getting played in. I'm not sure if anyone's been playing around in Legacy or anything, but you know, there's space for this. And these cards are legal in Pioneer as well. So
very
you know,
true.
There's a chance that there's a Pioneer version of this, I should imagine, maybe. To how powerful it is in Standard. I guess it's sort of like you sort of grindy Jund sacrifice players are probably attracted to this.
Ooh,
you never know. You never know.
You never know.
It's to play, if you want to play this deck up just for Standard, it's a big ask, because
it's a big investment.
It's a big investment because, you know, you're paying. I mean, look at Oko, for example. During Oko's Standard, that card was played heavily in different formats. But if you wanted to play Standard and Standard only, it's a big investment, especially if you want to play the winningest deck. So this can affect the price, how good they are, and how powerful they are in a format. That's one negative.
I mean, with the negative in mind, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise of anyone. It's not an if, it's a when as well.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going, okay, well, maybe let's give it another week or a month to see the data. I think everyone knows this is a situation. This is, I honestly, they won't do it, but a lot of people expect an emergency ban earlier this week after both the Arena Championships and the Showcase. So this is a big investment, but it's not. Modern decks typically flirt with that line of, is this card ban worthy? Is it not? And then sometimes they cross it, and sometimes they step back. This is a when. Definitely a when. I think
it's pretty obvious. Like, if you make this financial decision to buy these cards for Standard, like you want to spike your next RCQ, or you know, you want to try and, you know, qualify for the RC using this deck, there's a good chance that you're not going to play this deck in the RC because it might be banned before then. Like, you have to.
That's a great point.
You have to look at this and be like, right, is this money investment? Can I afford to spend this money to spike this one RCQ, knowing that I might not play this deck again or these cards again? Albeit, I'm pretty sure that these cards would maintain value. Not always the case. You know, ViVi might get, when the next BNR, ViVi might hit a modern ban, for example, as well, and then you've just lost that $200 cards, $200 playset's gone down to $30, and you're like, you know, I always think in my head of the student who buys Magic because it's their hobby. You know, students have tight on money. You know, they do this as their escapism, pastime, whatever. You know, I feel sorry for those sort of people. If you've got a full-time job and you're a boring 35-year-old male with knee problems like I, you're probably less of an impact on losing money for these cards. But you know, it's at the end of the day, it's the sort of people, like I always say, the students who might suffer the most, or the 18-year-old Spike who's just got his pocket money or whatever, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna play this card.
A
When
lot
it
of
gets
pocket
banned.
money, a
Yeah,
lot of
well,
pocket
yeah,
money for this
it
one.
might
And
save it off. I don't know, but that's the sort of
and
people I think of when it comes to sort of.
yeah,
It's obviously
100%.
getting banned, but that could even be a prof to single deck formats because you know what cards not to buy because it's just a matter of time. So that could be
Yeah,
a prof there or a pro,
and
should I say?
like that, I know that it's quite a strange argument. The fact that, well, look, ViVi is going to be playable. Don't worry, because let's be honest, if they're going to ban a card, it will be Soul Cauldron, not ViVi, because that card shouldn't be here for one, and for two, just takes it is a key pin in that deck. But if you remove that pin, sure, you can sell your cards, but you can sell your Soul Cauldrons and your VV, which is quite high value. You were then left with 67 cards
Mm.
that you kind of just stuck with that have a roundabout some value here, some value there. But let's say if you spend 800 hard-earned dollars on this and it gets banned, you're not going to get 800 hard-earned dollars back.
No.
You're going to get somewhere close. There is a little bit of insurance, but you're not going to get the whole thing paid out for you.
No. Moving on.
Hit me with another negative, yeah. Hit me with another one.
Create a stale and frustrating format, which is if you're doing back-to-back challenges or whatever, and you're playing anything but this deck, even if you are playing this deck and you're playing the mirror every time, like it's one of those things. It's like, oh, it is again playing this deck again.
Yep.
Even if you find a way, play pattern to beat it, this is the kind of level, this is the kind of powerful deck where they could just have the nuts. They could be like Mako, profts, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm just sat here with Shoot the Sheriff in my hand, like I can't kill these
Yeah.
bloody sharks. It's one of those things where it could just have a draw, which it was more likely to have a draw that doesn't match up with your draws, for example. And that can get frustrating. It can get stale. It can feel bad. It can sort of push people away from the format. And therefore affect stores, RCQ attendance, F&M attendance, all that sort of thing. I know back when Nadu was a thing in Modern, people were doing localized bannings because Wizards weren't doing action quick enough. They were like saying, right, we're doing this Modern tournament, Nadu is banned in this store, and then people were people had mixed opinions on that. People engage with it because great, my format's unlocked, or it's sort of a process against Wizards. But yeah, it can create that sort of feel bad.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, well, for one, we're 11 days into a new format. Standard challenges are struggling to fire. If you've not seen that,
no, I've not seen that.
So there was a tweet by Fire Shoes going, "Okay, guys, we need 6 more for the standard challenge," and it was standard challenge 32.
Yeah,
Fires in 8 minutes, and like people are already there, and I think that people are already frustrated because we see at least one of these a season now. It feels like we get one of these decks a set.
If you put time aside for a challenge, that's like what? If you win, it's like 9 games of Magic or whatever. It's 5, whatever many games of Magic it is.
5 to 8 hours.
You've put that time aside to play this, and then no one's attracted to that format. Like
It's a shift at work.
Yeah, you just wasted your afternoon. Like these are timed events. You can plan for these events, and if it doesn't fire, it's like, oh, and then that person will then not plan for the next one because it's not going to fire, and it'll just sort of. It takes like 1 to 2 events not to fire before that event's dead. Like you've seen it. You've seen it in lots of game stores where they had Legacy, for example. It got to the point where 1 or 2 events didn't fire, therefore the whole player base just didn't turn up, and you could have like years and years of events running. As soon as it's like 2 or 3 events on fire, people just give up.
People stop turning, and like
there's just something else at the time. It's a leisure time. Like the leisure time is very like leisure time is sacred. Like not people don't get much of it. Like you don't want to be wasting your leisure time.
Yeah, very true. Just for context, the event did fire, but it took Fire Shoes putting a push out, and guess what won? It was ViVi. I kept up with that one on purpose, just for the sake of podcast discussion. But yeah, it is frustrating. Like, okay, so let's say you're playing ViVi. You are going to, and it's a 6-round event. You are going to see this deck or these colors at least minimum 4 out of 6.
Yeah.
So, and these, if you're playing this after work or on your day off, these events are quite intense, and these mirrors are going to be quite intense. And then it gets to a point where you make one mistake 5 turns earlier, and it really topples the entire mirror, which just feels worse. It's just, I think that like it's format frustration is worse than format stagnation. If this deck was the best deck to play, but everyone really enjoyed playing it, then that's not as bad as
Yeah.
frustration setting in, people not turning up to events. I think you hit the nail on the head. Leisure time, if seeing one VV deck or two VV decks is wow, VV is pretty good. Seeing it 4 or 5 times, it's like, what's the point? What's the point of me sat here?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of time to have it hit. There's I know you're a Final Fantasy fan,
Mm-hmm.
Josh. I think VV's from Final Fantasy 9. I've seen this tweet going around, like this clip or like this screenshot, and it's of Vivi in that game going, "Oh boy, a card game tournament. That sure sounds fun,"
Yeah, yeah,
or something like that.
yeah,
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 and I think that's the perfect example of what's going on here.
yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds fun, but if it's just one wizard saying it, it's not fun.
yeah. It can also constrain deck choice because
Mm.
we had this conversation when we talked about a bit of ban. I think we had a B&R talk a couple of weeks back where we were saying
Yep.
like Final Fantasy's come out. There's all these cool decks that are in the pipeline, and sort of like the current sort of standard is sort of like keeping the power level and the card pool, sort of keeping those decks at bay.
Mm-hmm.
We've unlocked those decks. And we had a period of time where we saw the landfall decks, we saw all the unicombo decks, we said all these other decks, but they've all just sort of been like they are much worse things to be doing than just straight up VV, and VV will just
Yep.
feast on those decks. So it
Mm-hmm.
does affect what decks you can bring to a tournament, knowing, because this is a single deck format, knowing you're going to face those decks. So it constrains your deck choice, and it's sort of like soft bans decks in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously decks are of the field and idea, well, if you can't cook, get out the kitchen. So the weak decks are really strangled out. But like I played the Black White Aristocrats deck in a standard challenge. I got paired into VV twice and was like, oh, I just can't play this deck. This deck just cannot compete with what's
Yeah.
going on here. And sadly, in the era of a one deck format, naturally decks exist like that where you think it's going to be good and then actually it's quite bad. This VV is saying to every other deck, get out the kitchen, because it's
Yeah.
just you can play people like yourself and Christian, shout out to Christian and Chad Magic, have been playing Control, the mere mid range, forever. And even you guys are getting told, actually, your pet deck of the past 2 years can't compete here, which is a bad feeling, right?
I think decks have game. It has game, but like if they get the nut draw, they get land of Soul Cauldron. It's like so hard to beat. It's so hard to
Yeah.
beat. You have to draw hot,
Yeah.
and they have to draw not.
Their nut draw is like, sorry, your nut draw it really forces variance on both sides, because naturally if you draw 24 lands in a row, you're losing that game. That's fine, but you have to have a really good draw and they have to have a pretty mid to bad draw for you to capitalize on it. So not only do you need good variance for yourself, you need bad variance for them, and now you're rolling 3 different sets of dice to determine game outcomes. It's just it's tough. It's really
I
tough
mean,
going.
you in these sort of blue black decks, you win the game by drawing cards because you have to make land drops and cast spells. You can't just like, oh, I've not made a land drop and pass turn or whatever. You need to be doing both, and to do that, you have to draw more cards. But you don't get the opportunity to draw those cards because of their removal suites is so powerful. Their combo end game is so powerful, and they can just land Makos, like just slam a Mako down. They're discarding cards naturally through the synergy, and then you're just like, well, I can't answer this because my shoot the sheriff doesn't kill it. Or I don't have cut out in the format anymore. It can be frustrating.
Yeah, and you're punishing ingrained players as well. Wizards literally extended rotation because players want to be able to play with their cards more.
Yep.
If your cards are now unplayable because of a superficial rotation, it's the same feeling. It's the same feeling.
I would say as well, like, it invalidates deck choice, but I also think that it invalidates the card pool because, you can look at the sort of removal that play like your aristocrats decks, all their removal, and they play a lot of it, lines up into that deck quite well. They have red board wipes, they can just keep you. It can just turn into this control game. You know, you might be just killing their stuff, and then they can bring about like the Soul Cauldron or get effects off it that way. You know, they're building value from your removal spells in a sense.
Yeah.
So it sort of invalidates some of the card pool. Like, I can't play this card because it's really bad into fire magic, or I can't play loads of these cards because it's really bad into, or I can't play artifacts because it's bad into a braid. You know that sort of thing. Like the red sort of removal is actually really good right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of the better color for removal, other than say white. But yeah, it's sort of like it invalidates the card pool in a certain way as well. Like you
100%.
can't. There's certain threats you just can't play right. Like yeah.
Like a good example is, let me just pull up Cauldron. I'm just looking through this deck now, and one of the things this deck makes me feel is, why is Foundations legal for 5 years? You know, I think it plays a braid from Foundations. But you know,
I think a braid's a good card to have, but the fact that
no, very good,
you know,
very good.
It kills other I suppose it kills all the Soul Cauldrons, but it also kills Ghost Vacuums, which is one of the premier removal graveyard hate spells in the format. You know, it's it's a lot of it's just a really high. I want to say high toolbox. I mean, the deck can pivot. It's got good pivots to the deck, and you know, it does invalidate a lot of the deck building, a lot of the cards, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and like, I just, you know, if you wanted, if this 5-year core set was meant to be the building blocks of a format, then it's failed. It's fundamentally failed. And you know, we've got, how long is it going to be a failure for? Are we going to see an improvement on the format, or are we just going to see it how it is? And you know, that's not for us to decide. That's for Wizards to decide. And I don't envy the choice, because it's going to be a tough one, I think.
Yeah, I just want to iterate as well that these points that we're making can be applied to pretty much every single deck format. You know, when, I don't know, like Nadu was a thing, or Hogak was a thing in Modern. You know, these sort of points, I feel like I can fit quite well. You know, both pros are going to talk about next, but the negatives as well. So it's not, I know we're focused in the conversation around ViVi, but it's generally about, we want to try and push it, the narrative that, you know, this is generally pros and cons to single deck formats. Any more negatives you want to talk about, Sam, before we move on to some positives?
No, I think that the biggest negative here that is down to this specific environment is it's really stolen thunder from Edge of Eternities. I was really excited for that set. It's been great for Modern, and I imagine a lot of these cards would be cool for Standard as well, but ViVi's just kind of said no. Soul Cauldron just kind of said no. And like, ViVi is now invalidated. Sorry, I keep saying ViVi. Josh is right. It's not actually a ViVi problem, but this deck is making 3 or 4 sets pointless to exist. And if that's the case, why have we got such a big standard? And if that's the case, why is rotation every 3 years? I think that my personal thorn about this is it's actually just made Edge of Eternities look quite weak, and I don't think that's the case at all.
No, I don't think it's the case. I mean, on this deck particularly as well, you know, you look at, like we talked about red removal, but it also plays into the Floodmaw, which is an
obscene card.
Yeah, it's just
Bloomburrow.
It can just bounce. It has an answer to rest in pieces. You know, you can have any problematic permanence. You know, looking at blue black and blue black mage, you're looking at, you know, your curiosity sort of enduring curiosity sort of packages, and that where you need to be drawing cards and sort of invalidate, turn you off a turn, almost time walk you a turn. Yeah, it's got a lot of tools, a lot of powerful stuff, and it can pivot so well. Pros then,
100%.
Pros then to a single deck format. Obviously keeping the conversation around ViVi, because this is what we're in right now. Predictable metagame. You know you're going to face this deck. You know you're going to do it. Like you can be prepared. You can focus your sideboard, your building. You know, you can focus how you're gonna your game plan, because you're probably easily gonna find this deck on Magic Online. You know, just run a league. You're probably gonna face this deck, so you can get your practice in. You can you know what's coming. Like, it's not like you go Modern and you'll have a strong inkling you're gonna play it against at least 1 or 2 Boros Energy players, but otherwise the field is wide open. Like
Yep.
wide open, particularly in paper as well. When people are like brewing and they're playing their own sort of spin on things, you know where you know you're going to play against this in this format. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that people get confused between what is actually a good competitive format and what is a fun competitive format. An actual standard typically represents a game of rock paper scissors. Usually, A is good against B, B is good against C, C is good against A. And that's a really good competitive format because if A's been performing really well, you just get to play a version of C and have those main deck changes maybe that actually improves your B matchup as well. But that standard has always actually reflected a very, very good competitive format. And I think that Modern is a fun competitive format. But let's say you practice forever against Boris, against Goryo's, against the Mere Frogtides. You qualify for your RC. You go to Antwerp later in a year. Round 1, you paired against Hollow One. Round 2, you paired against... I know I use this as an example. Yeah, Vengevine. Okay, you're out of the event now. Yeah. You know, like that is a fun format, but it is a feels bad competitive environment. If you know if there is one deck, then there is only one deck you have to prepare for and know about and plan towards. And I know that we start with negative, so it feels like we're being inherently negative about the situation, but that's not the case. The format's existed for less than 2 weeks now. And I think that as time goes on, we're going to see more and more and more people try to solve that problem. It's a one deck format. Let's try and crack it. And didn't you play against something quite odd in the showcase?
Yes. So
yeah,
it's one of those things. If you play this format, you either play the best deck or you innovate against it, or you innovate. And we'll talk about innovation in a second because that's one of the pros, I think. And I faced against a black-white mid-range deck which played like loads of exile effects, Ketramos, the ends. I forget what the board wipe is, which exiles everything.
Deadly cover-up.
Deadly cover-ups, that sort of thing. That like invalidates the Soul Cauldron because you're exiling all the threats anyway, and plays the right colours where you can exile graveyards and stuff. You know, there's that new removal spell I've been playing. That let me get it out my pile of cards here. So I have one. Strategic Betrayal. You know, that sort of exile graveyards, exile creature. That card is actually really good right now.
That's the edict, right?
The edict with the graveyard. It's actually really good now. Yeah, it's
cool
really
card.
Good. Yes, it's actually, it doesn't sound very good, but I can assure you it's very good. I'm playing 2, thinking about playing 3 in my sideboard at the moment. You know, it was playing that sort of stuff, and it actually really in my Kaito / Curiosity deck, which is my main 2 win cons. You just the end and both of them, and then I've got no significant threats in my deck anymore. Like
that's quite funny.
Like I was just like I just got absolutely caught out by the hate for this other deck, and this other deck happened to be good against arguably the second best deck in the format, which is the deck I was playing. So. You know, it was good to see that sort of innovation, or that sort of build to sort of answer this sort of one deck format. And I think we said before about, you know, we can identify the decks we can't play, like you can't play Aristocrats, but it means it can also identify decks that you can play and what are good in this format, because you know the decks like the the black-white sort of exile deck that I faced against. That sort of deck could potentially be really good in that format, albeit it might lose to the, I don't know what it might lose to. The red decks, for example. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the decks that hardly ever played, but it's really good into those. It's identifying that this deck is really good against these decks, and I'm 100% going to face this multiple times minimum. So you could use that as a way of sort of focusing your deck choice. I also think, and I think you mentioned this, you can actually innovate, which sounds counterintuitive from what we said before about, you know, it bans certain cards, bans certain decks. But once you've picked your deck that is really good in that format, or could have game in that format, you can then innovate because you know exactly what you're going to face. You know, you can have a sideboard plan, and you can test that sideboard plan, because all you got to do is just load up Magic Online and you're going to place it.
Yeah, and let's say that, for example, you find a card that is actually very, very good against VV, very, very good against Cauldron. You can just play a main, right?
Hmm?
You can just go. Actually, Strategic Betrayal here has been super impressive. I'm going to play 2 of those main.
Yeah.
Let's give it a go. And like your opponent in a 1 deck format, your opponent is not going to be pre-sideboarded for you, but
No.
you can be pre-sideboarded for them as well.
Yeah, especially because, like I said, you're going to face them. It's
Hmm.
identifying. The innovation could be like, well, let's change my numbers round. So, for example, taking the blue black as a case study, I could play. Well, let's play mainboard Preacher Schism because it's a 3/4 and it invalidates a lot of their removal because all the removal's black, and
Hmm.
some of them is red. Sorry, and there's nothing in the main deck that can kill this. It can get bounced, but I'm just taking away. I mean, I'm looking here. This version plays 3 torch, 2 abrades, and then 3 into the Floodmore. Well, if I play this
Hmm.
particular threat, out of those 8 removal spells, I've invalidated 5 of them. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, they need to draw exactly this right removal spell, which at that point I probably drew a card or gained some value from it.
Hmm.
It's sort of innovating that way. What threats are good? What threats are bad? What threats haven't I thought of before, but might be good in this format? Can I play one of the 6/6? Chance of that, chance of the annex sort of not chance of the annex. What's the annex?
Archery into the Dross
No,
or Norn's Annex.
the annex card that
Oh,
the mid ninja is playing. Bear with me. Da-da-da. Which that black white deck was playing anyway. The draws a card unless you control a demon. That one.
yeah, it's a Ritual Chamber and something else.
That one. Anyway, you could rely on your
Mm.
6/6 dragon. It might get bounced, but it's invalidating a lot of the removal spells. Your your
Unholy Annex.
Unholy Alex,
Unholy
your
Annex.
Soulstone annexes, your Soulstone sanctuaries as well. You just
Hmm.
if you got Kaito out, you can plus them, make them into 4/4s. Plus Kaito, sorry, make them into 4/4s, and then you've got a really hard to deal with threat, albeit it can be bounced, believe it or not. Or you could be like, you know what, Azorius Control's been really good. I'm going to play all the answers to everything all the time, and think I'm going to pick this, and I'm going to pick my threats because they're too big to be burnt out. It invalidates the removal, and I'm just going to answer everything and try and keep them off balance for as long as I can. It's sort of that sort of level of innovation that we're thinking of. Even like that I mentioned that black white deck again. I've never seen that deck before that that tournament played. That might be interesting in Peru. I don't know, but yeah, that sort of innovation. Identifying, if you can identify what you're going to play against, it's pretty easy to make a plan for it.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And like, we know that obviously VV is an extreme case of a single deck format. That means that the answers are also going to have to be quite extreme too. Because yeah,
Standards is a bit different to modern because the card pool, right? So if you look at modern, the best way to attack modern is to be really proactive. Like make them have, you present the questions, make them have the answers. But with standard, it's a lot easier to present answers to those questions if you're well aware what those questions are beforehand. Because you're not going to anticipate modern. You're not going to anticipate potentially Paper Legacy. You're not going to anticipate potentially Pioneer because the format's so wide open. So you be uber aggressive, uber proactive, and that will be sort of like the way you innovate in that way. But with standard, because of a single deck format, because you know it, you can then bring more answers instead of questions.
100%.
You mentioned one about the best decks usually being quite mid-rangey. What did you? This was obviously when we discussed this podcast. What do you mean by that?
So, especially for standards, it is hard for a deck like Nardu to exist. The card pool isn't there. The selection isn't there, so the combos are usually quite face up. Now, this deck is draw cards slop, to be fair to it. It's draw cards and the synergy with drawing cards. And the great thing with that is, let's say you could be the best Boris Energy player in the world. Let's say you are. You could get paired into Neobrand 4 times and you're just out. That's game over. You are likely going to go 1-3 or 0-4 in that situation. And all your skill actually probably was not reflected in those games. I watched some Twitch streamers Pilot Showcase. One of my favorite streamers, Canister, streamed this deck. And I watched Chad Magic Mamba Machek play as well. you can really see the skill in these mirrors.
Welcome to
And
Magic, by the way, to the Chad Magic team. New member. Welcome,
hi,
Magic.
Magic. I'm not sure if it's been announced yet. It has now. But look, these mirrors are all skill. Because all of your cards draw cards, it is hard to not draw cards and get to a point where you have lands and spells.
Yeah.
Naturally, of course, it still happens.
Yeah.
But all of the mirrors I watched, I saw great skill on display. Canister, for example, just started taking out VVs, started taking out Soul Cauldrons, and played a red-blue control deck post-sideboard in the mirrors. And I was like, that's insane. It's the best thing I've ever seen. And he was winning. And like, this is the thing. Like, sure, it's not like modern here, but I guarantee a good VV player will be able to dance absolute circles around a bad VV player. And, you know, it's a reflection of skill. Okay. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, so it rewards skill rather than just I'm playing this deck, the deck carries me. It's actually rewarding skill and sort of single deck format.
Yeah. This deck's actually really hard to play. Yeah. I've played in the past, very tricky. A lot of your sequencing matters, and I made a point before that sometimes it can be a negative when I've just made a mistake 5 turns ago and it's really spiraled out of control. From a competitive format, that's a great thing to exist.
Cool. And I think the last point I want to sort of make is if you engage with this format and you want to compete with this format, you have to see the positives, right? I know, like, it's all doom and gloom, you know, and a lot of content creators now, like, you know, VV's a problem, ban it, but that's not going to solve anything because they're just not going to do that. Like, that's out of your control. What is in your control is how you engage with that format. And if you see the positive in that format, like we've just said, you know, there are positives, then you can potentially thrive in that format. You know, the positive is, there's a best deck here, I'm going to play it. Or I've got these cards, I'm going to play this. And there's going to be loads of content behind it. There's going to be loads of people can watch, like you said with Canister. Or I've got this strategy that beats this. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to come up with something, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to do well at it. You know, the winner of the showcase was a blue-black Demir deck, which was a lot different to the deck, a lot different looking to the deck I was playing different threats, etc. Dubious threats, I would add, but you know, still took it to the I think they split her in the end. You know, and it's like you have to see the positives in this if you want to engage with this, because to me the choice is you engage with it and complain about it, you engage with it and accept it, or you just don't engage with it, in my opinion. And I'd rather not engage with something if I'm complaining, because it's just, what's the point? This is a game at the end of the day. I know people take it seriously, and we've had podcasts in the past, we've talked about, you know, how your relationship with the game and how you shouldn't really be, you know, you shouldn't judge yourself as a person, how good you are, your results and all that sort of stuff. But I think if you're complaining about a format and you're losing and you're not enjoying it, and just take the season out. Otherwise, see that positive, crack on, or just play something else and be happy.
Yeah, and I think that like that's such a good point. Like, sure, please don't watch this video and think, oh my god, these two are trying to say it's okay. We have said it's fundamentally not okay.
Yes, it's not okay. However, this is
what it is.
This is the island we're sat on. Like, that's
100%. And like, you know, I've at this point, I've actually, you know, I've said earlier today, you know, at the minute, I'm actually just playing Resident Evils. Let's go. Yeah. Let's have my own little side challenge outside of Magic. And I know that when I inevitably come back, or not come back, but like if I ever check in on Standard after the band, I'm going to enjoy that format even more, because I didn't, you know, I'm not, what's the Greek myth? Is it Sisyphus, who has to pull or push the boulder up?
Oh yeah, push the boulder up the hill and then it rolls back down and you go back up again.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually gonna not push the boulder up.
Yep. So simple. You can choose how you engage this game, and it doesn't have to be this. Yeah. I do say though that the games of Standard I've been having that haven't been VV have been so good.
Yeah.
Like so good. Like I know I recently trophied, obviously the same day I was doing the thing. I probably put more effort into the league than was the actual event, but you know, I faced 5 different decks in that league particularly, and each one was super fun games, super intricate decisions. And I feel like sideboarding with standard after a season of modern, I feel with modern the sideboard is
So
way
different.
more easier. I feel sideboard modern is way easier. Like I feel like it's just a lot of times just obvious. Whereas standard, it's like, I know these cards are good, but what do I take out? And that's like, until you understand the heuristics of the format, until you understand exactly sort of like, what I think the best way to do it is to discuss with other people and bounce ideas off, like what's good, what's bad, and why, and all this. And then you formulate a game plan. I mean, shout out to Christian, another blue-black mage in the team. Me and him have bounced ideas off each other quite a bit, especially with sideboarding. And I like his take on it. And I feel like he's listened to sort of my takes on some stuff, and then we've sort of like met in the middle and been like, yeah, actually, this is the best way to do it. And I've really enjoyed those conversations with him particularly. So
I think talk to people. I mean, if you have to play and want to play but have to be frustrated, don't do it by yourself. You're never gonna leave that room feeling good.
No.
So at least have a moment with a mate or you go through it. And I think that,
because you could be doing something wrong. You could have the wrong idea from it. Like I was on this conversation with Stefanos, about certain things, and he's saying, "Oh, you should keep this in because of this reason." I'm like, "No, mate, that's not because of this reason." He's like, "Of course." Or I've said like, "Mate, I want to bring this in," and he said, "Well, what about this?" And I'm like, "You know what? I didn't think of that. Fair one." Because you're not going to think of these things if you're just in your own brain, and
100%.
You just the average person wouldn't anyway. I don't think.
No, I fully agree. You can't get better pushing a boulder up a hill. Sometimes you need a little assistance with that boulder. And
I agree.
one thing I'd like to mention, and this isn't going to be a pleasant truth, we are not going to see any form of emergency ban or emergency interaction from Wizards. They have shown by precedent they do not want to do that, which, if they're sticking by it, I respect, which means that this is either going to change meta-wise or this is going to be the truth until November. Which is,
I mean, like they ban ViVi, right? Say they ban ViVi.
Yeah.
And they ban ViVi and Cauldron. What's next?
I think it has to be Cauldron.
It's going to be Kaitos everywhere. Kaitos are going to be the thing. Like, people moan about that. Like, it's just... I feel like we had a sweet spot in the standard when we had the Monstrous Rage, Bounce decks, and the Kaito decks in the format.
Mm-hmm.
That was like sort of policing each other. It was the 4-color deck, 5-color decks, sort of policing each other. That we had a perfect triangle then, I feel, but that triangle doesn't exist at the moment in standard. And I think maybe something that's coming out in Spider-Man, which will help. I think that's probably going to be a flagship set for them. That's going to be a big set. So maybe there's something in there that's going to help.
Yeah, I hope so, but I think people waiting for a ban are going to be sorely mistaken.
No.
And it's going to affect 3 different spotlights. And my advice to people is, if you do not want to play in this format and you cannot accept it, don't spend 80 quid on event entries. It's not.
Side events, baby.
That's where you'll find me in the Spotlight Liverpool, maybe. Or you know what? I might see if I can borrow this deck from people and just play the best deck in a GP. I've never done that before. That'd be fun. So you got to find your own little victories in this, because that's, as Josh put it very well, this is the island we're on. So let's make the most about it.
Cool. Anything finalized to add before we end this pod? It's been quite a long one, but I feel like it's been quite a good discussion. I've enjoyed this conversation with you, Sam.
Honestly, Josh, it feels like it's been a while since we've done just me and you chatting about Magic. I've really enjoyed the bridge that we've crossed to see all the formats. And what I will say is, I like that at the end of the day, as both people who are invested in Standard and have played Standard, we haven't just sit here going, you need to ban Cauldron. We've actually tried to give a bit of a different perspective.
It's a bit boring calling for bans. Don't get me wrong, I love a good B&R meltdown thing. I love a good, we call it in the military drip. Like, we love to drip about stuff because it's like moaning, complaining. It sort of like releases feel good hormones, But I feel like it's not productive because you crack on with it anyway, because we'll drip about the format, but we'll still play it. And I think if you take it from like what positives can I get out of this, and focus on those positives, and then focus on how to attack that metagame, how to attack that deck, how to attack your game plan, your strategy, and all that sort of stuff, or attack with that your game plan, strategy, and all that sort of stuff, and come up with something. I think I think there's definitely some positives and definitely enjoyment to be had for sure. And this
Yeah.
is it. This is the standard we're in right now, and it's going to change. Like Spider-Man is probably going to be impactful. I know, is Avatar coming out? Is Avatar spoilers happening now? Like there's so many sets coming into standard. Like it's overbearing for sure, but you know, there's going to be answers. There's going to be cards that are going to be playable, cards that are not going to be playable. There's going to be answers. There's going to be something, I'm sure.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And I think that
I'd be more excited for waiting for cards to come out rather than cards to come to leave. I think.
Yeah, look, it's not going to happen anytime soon. It'll probably be Soul Culture when it does happen, if it does happen, and post then we're still going to be in a VV format, in a Kaito format, and an Enduring Curiosity format. So you know, this can almost reflect a monkey's paw wish. Sure, ban Cauldron. Are you happy with the format that's left over? And you know, like there are standards that have been for me, and there are standards that really haven't been for me. And maybe this is just one that's not for me, and that's fine too.
I mean, it'll change. That's going to happen.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks everyone for listening. I've really enjoyed this conversation, as I said before. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And Sam, any afterburners?
I have finished Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. If anyone at home has some advice for me on the remaining Resident Evils, drop them in the comments. I know 6 is rubbish. I'm not looking forward to it. We'll get there. But no, thank you all for joining, and we will catch you next time.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers, Sam. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Josh.